Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Duncan Theater. In consideration for the other patrons, please silence your cell phones and pagers at this time. During the concert, if you need to enter or exit the audience area, please wait until a break between musical selections. For the performer's safety, flash photography, audio and video recorders are prohibited. We now invite you to sit back and relax and enjoy the performance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our program this evening. Our program tonight is entitled American Originals, celebrating America's great masters of music, and also in the case of our concert choir, some of our great masters of poetry as well. Our opening selection was "Oh, to Make a Jubilant Song" by Sherri Porterfield, and it's a setting of a very popular and well-known poem by the great American poet Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman lived from 1819 to 1892. He was an American poet, essayist, and journalist. Much of his work was highly influenced by his experience during the Civil War. This excerpt came from his poem Song of Joys, which is part of his most famous collection, Leaves of Grass, a collection of poetry that he began working on in 1850 and continued working on until his death. In our first group of songs, we're going to be featuring settings of great American poetry by equally great American composers. Our next set features the poetry of James Agee and the music of Samuel Barber. James Agee, born in 1909, was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and his most famous work was his novel, later made into a play and a movie, A Death in the Family. Some of his works were set to music by Samuel Barber, who you'll hear more about in the later half of the program, when Mr. Gibble presents one of his instrumental works. Samuel Barber was a great 20th century composer who was twice awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Music. In the vocal field, he is most well known for his two operas, Vanessa and Antony and Cleopatra, both of which premiered at the Metropolitan Opera, and his many songs and choral works. Some of his choral works are also arrangements of some of his other pieces, such as his instrumental work Adagio for Strings, which has also been arranged for chorus. Among his pieces include several settings of text by James Agee. He took the preface to the novel A Death in the Family and set it as a concert work for soprano and orchestra entitled Knoxville, Summer of 1914. But his other well-known piece to a James Agee text is to this poem, Sure on This Shining Night. It was originally written as a solo work. He later arranged it for chorus, which we'll be performing. The text paints the picture of this beautiful, calm, and mysterious evening. Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round, kindness must watch for me this side the ground. Sure on this shining night, music by Samuel Barber, poem by James Agee, featuring our chamber singers. Our next two pieces both feature the text of one of our great American 20th century poets. Perhaps the two most famous American 20th century poets from the mid part of the century were one man sort of representing the city in Chicago and the Midwest, and another who represented New England and a more rural life. The New England poet was Robert Frost, famous for many of his poems, such as Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. In 1958, the city of Amherst, Massachusetts, was celebrating its 200th anniversary of the founding of the city. And for that event, they commissioned a musical piece. And what seemed more appropriate for a New England city than to feature a piece featuring the poetry of perhaps the greatest New England poet. And so they commissioned the composer Randall Thompson to write a set of pieces called Frostiana. Originally written for chorus and orchestra, they've also been arranged for chorus and piano. Now they involve a variety of different settings, so we're going to do two. The first one just features our women's chorus in front of you, and that will be the piece, A Girl's Garden, telling the story of a girl and her particular unique efforts at farming.
She was a girl on a farm, she did a childlike thing.
Randall Thompson, born in 1899 in New York City and died in 1984 in Boston, was a well-known American composer, but also particularly exceeded as an educator. He was educated at Harvard, and he later went on to teach at Wellesley College, at the University of California, Berkeley, and at Princeton University, and later was the director of music at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. Perhaps his most famous song is his setting of the one-word text, Alleluia. We're going to be closing off our first little portion here with the second piece from Frostiana, the well-known poem, The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And closing with the famous couplet, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The road less traveled, the road not taken, by Randall Thompson. we're going to take a moment and turn the stage over here to our brass ensemble for a couple numbers, and then we'll be back with a few more choral numbers featuring some folk songs and other songs of America. But now our Palm Beach State Brass Ensemble under the direction of David Gibble.
Good evening. We have a couple selections for you. The first selection we're going to play for you is actually a very brief fanfare. And this is called Salute to USA by a fairly well-known band composer by the name of Gordon Jacob. Now this particular piece was most likely written for the commemoration of the bicentennial, of course in 1976. And in this you will hear in the first two measures kind of two motives. The first thing you're going to hear is the tuba and then the first trumpet. They're going to be playing the intervals 1-7-7-6 for 1776. In the second measure, the tuba and first trumpet are going to be playing the intervals 1-9-7-6. So if you listen for that, that kind of sets up the whole piece. It's very, very short fanfare, so we hope you enjoy it. The second piece, the Suite for Brass, was actually written originally for a brass quintet. Two trumpets, French horn, trombone, and tuba. It was expanded to an octet and with also some supplemental parts. And it's actually in three sections. Of course, a march, a blues, not necessarily in the jazz sense, but a blues that's kind of a little bit of melancholy in feeling. And finally, a real, almost like a hoedown type of feeling. So the first is going to be the Suite for Brass, the Salute to USA, and then the Suite for Brass.
American composer Aaron Copland from a set of songs entitled Old American Songs. And we're going to continue with some more old American songs. Our next selection combines two different songs representing sort of two traditions of sacred song in America. One, the southeastern Appalachian region folk hymn song tradition, particularly from collections such as the Sacred Harp, and the other from representing the tradition of the Afro-American spiritual. This arrangement combines these two tunes, Shall We Gather at the River and Deep River, in an arrangement by John Carter.
down the street, down the street, a handsome girl I chanced to meet, all she was fair to see. Oh, buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight and dance the light of the moon? I asked her, would you want to dance? Want to dance? I thought that I would have. Should I take the chance? Should I take the chance? Oh, buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight and dance the light of the moon? I dance with the gal with the hole in her stocking and her hips, get the rockin' in her toe, get the knockin'. I dance with the gal with the hole in her stocking and we dance by the light of the moon. We dance the night away, oh, we dance the night away. We dance the night away, oh, we dance the night away. I wanna make that gal my wife, gal my wife, gal my wife, and I'd be happy all my life, happy all my life. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight? Come out tonight, come out tonight. Buffalo gals, won't you come out tonight and dance by the light of the moon? We're gonna be happy, we're gonna be happy, we're gonna be happy and dance. Buffalo gals.
Of course, that was not a sacred song. That was the American folk song Buffalo Gals, and just proving how international American folk music is, arranged by an Englishman, Bob Chilcott, formerly of the English vocal group The King's Singers. We're going to be finishing off our set for the first half of this program with an example of another great American style of music, gospel music. The contemporary composer Robert Ray is one of the most successful composers of gospel music. And a few years ago, he came up with an unusual idea, an idea to set the different movements of the Catholic Mass, also the same Mass used in the Lutheran and Episcopal churches, in a gospel style, a contemporary gospel style. We're going to be doing one movement of that, the Credo, I Believe. Our featured soloists are Kayleen Dahl, Nancy St. Pierre, Caleb Kwiku, and Allison Fishbein. I Believe, from Gospel Mass by Robert Ray.
I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe in God,
be sure to come back after intermission. You won't want to miss the concert band and our wonderful version of Rhapsody in Blue featuring our faculty pianist, Harold Brown.
Thank you. Welcome to the second half of our concert. And before we get started, I'm going to tell you a bit about our first piece. The name Morton Gould is a name that is synonymous with American symphonic music. Gould led a multifaceted career as a composer, conductor, arranger, and pianist. As a composer, he was commissioned by major orchestras all over the United States to write original works. He also wrote for the movies, Broadway, and television, receiving a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, Pulitzer Prize, and a Kennedy Center honor in recognition of his lifetime contributions. This work we're going to play for you, American Salute, is based upon the tune that you all know, When Johnny Comes Marching Home. This was written in 1942. Here's American Salute. just a second while we make a little set change here. In 1923, the society band leader Paul Whitman asked George Gershwin to contribute a concerto-like piece for an all-jazz concert in 1924. Originally called American Rhapsody, it was suggested by his brother Ira that he rename this piece Rhapsody in Blue after a visit to an art exhibition which featured the paintings by James Whistler, such as Nocturne in Black and Gold and Arrangement in Gray and Black, better known as Whistler's Mother. The resulting composition premiered at a concert entitled An Experiment in Modern Music in New York in 1924 with Gershwin at the piano and the Whitman Orchestra. It established Gershwin's reputation as a serious composer and has since become one of the most popular of all American works. Now, when he was starting on this project, he was kind of having difficulty gaining ideas. And basically, one of the things that Gershwin liked to do, really enjoyed, in fact, of course, transportation of the day, was ride on the railroad. And it was on one of these train trips that he came up with, not necessarily the melodies, but kind of like the structure of the piece of Rhapsody in Blue. And I think when you listen to this, you can definitely envision, you know, a train traveling fast down the tracks through, you know, the fields and the various cities and so forth. This particular version you're going to hear is a little different than the symphonic version that you're accustomed to. This arrangement by Dunham Husberger was written for only 23 instruments and is based upon the original 1924 version and later 1926 theater orchestra version. Let me point out just a couple of the instruments that you don't ordinarily see in a concert band. First of all, we have here essentially almost like a dance band with some added instruments. But in particular, you'll notice this instrument right in back of me, played by Pat Hackett. This is the banjo, of course. So, how about a hand for Pat? And the banjo. So essentially what this ensemble is kind of like a dance band almost type of feeling. And you'll see that throughout the piece, it kind of has this 1920s type of sound. Our guest pianist tonight is Harold Brown. Harold Brown has been heard throughout the United States, Europe, Australia, and South America, as well as on television and on radio, in recital, in chamber music, and as a soloist with symphony orchestras. Mr. Brown has an extensive repertoire ranging from Bach to Messiaen, and his performances of Ravel's complete piano works have garnered high critical acclaim. The music faculty at Palm Beach State is very glad to have Harold Brown on its staff as a member of our adjunct faculty. Here he is, Harold Brown. How about once again, Harold Brown. Harold. I guess I can't hide anymore behind the piano. I think I'm going to be found out, I think, very soon here. You know, one of the things about that particular piece, as we were rehearsing this, that piece over a long period of time, you know, we're so used to hearing that piece in a lot of different types of venues. We hear it in commercials. Is it United Airlines or something, major airline like that? It's heard all the time in movies. It's heard on TV. It's heard in the culture all the way. And so what happens is the common listener kind of feels that it's probably a fairly simple piece. It's really a very, very difficult piece for any pianist, as they could tell you. And essentially, Gershwin improvised a lot of the initial performance, and it kind of went back and then actually wrote down what he had played or something similar to what he had played. So it's a very demanding piece, and we're very happy to have had the opportunity to have Harold play it with our band. Thank you. To switch gears a little bit, I know that Mr. MacMullen told you a little bit about Samuel Barber in the first half because they had performed a choral work by him. Samuel Barber completed his symphony in one movement in 1936. The Andante and Tranquillo, which is actually the third section of the work, which Mr. Barber described as being a condensed one-movement version of a classical four-movement symphony. Mr. Barber, who was raised just outside of Philadelphia in the town of Westchester, and the location of my undergraduate studies, as well as Mr. Jones, who played piano on that last piece. He entered the Curtis School of Music when he was 14 and went on to much success as a composer of orchestral, opera, choral, and piano music. So we hope you enjoy Andante and Tranquillo. You have to excuse us for a second while we do retune the band. every semester we get together for a band, and I plan the program and I start thinking about pieces that I'd like to do. And one of the things that invariably happens is that I think, I don't want to program quite a difficult program as we did last semester, and that usually fails by the first rehearsal. And this next piece is by no means an exception. This is a very challenging piece, and one of the great staples of the concert band literature. Charles Ives, who is an American modernist composer and widely regarded as one of the first American composers of international renown, wrote his Variations on America for organ, which was premiered on the 4th of July in 1891. So this is roughly the same time as Claude Debussy, and if you think of painters, Claude Monet and the French Impressionists. As is fairly typical for artists, his music was largely ignored during his lifetime, and as a result, his Variations on America was not published until 1949. The piece is very typical of Ives. The variations feature many Ives-isms, including utilizations of different styles, including a march, a polonaise, which is Polish in nature, a Spanish paso doble, as well as playing in two keys at the same time. William Schumann arranged this work for orchestra in 1964, and again for symphonic band in 1968. So here's William Schumann's rendition of Charles Ives' Variations on America. Of course, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the music from the musical West Side Story. And of course, West Side Story is one of the iconic works ever written for the American stage. In 1957, the collaboration between Leonard Bernstein, choreographer Jerome Robbins, writer Arthur Lawrence, and lyricist Stephen Sondheim gave us the tragic tale of Romeo and Juliet, reset to then modern-day New York. The four dances feature some of the highlights transcribed for band. The scherzo is a lighthearted, carefree movement that aptly opens the suite. The mambo comes from the gym scene where the Jets and the Sharks, the American and the Puerto Rican gangs, first meet and dance while they're trying to suppress their hostility toward each other. The mambo fades into the cha-cha as Tony and Maria notice each other for the first time and dance together transfixed. The anxiety-ridden fugue is based on the material from the song Cool, in which the Jets are convincing each other to bottle up their overwhelming emotions. The fugue subject is a 12-tone row, lending a worrisome, intense feeling to the movement. Each new statement of the theme adds more layers until the texture explodes into a percussion-heavy statement of the main theme from Cool. Ian Polster arranged this setting for the modern symphonic band. Here then is 4 dances from West Side Story. We'll go straight from one dance to the other in between without pause. We have a minor set change here. Now, anybody recognize what this is? Chances are, yeah, it is an antique. Chances are, if you're under the age of 40 or 45, you probably never had the opportunity to get a chance to use one of these things. If you notice, it's decidedly low tech. There's no wires coming out. There's not hooked up to a screen of any type. And, you know, for those of us who went to high school in the 50s, 60s, 70s, not too much into the 80s, you know, I remember having to type up my college projects on a manual typewriter where you had to, you know, if you needed to start over, use whiteout and measure all the rulers, markings, and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, there have been few collaborations in music that have been more fruitful than the relationship between Leroy Anderson and the Boston Pops Orchestra. Anderson had been conducting and arranging for dance bands around Boston, and when his arranging work eventually came to the attention of Arthur Fiedler, Mr. Fiedler, legendary conductor of the Boston Pops for many, many years, asked him if he could show him an original composition, and Anderson responded with Jazz Pizzicato in 1938. He eventually went to write many tunes which have become thoroughly integrated with our American musical landscape, including The Syncopated Clock, Sleigh Ride, Bugler's Holiday, A Christmas Festival, and many more. For these contributions, John Williams described him as one of the great American masters of light orchestral music. At this time, I'd like to bring out our guest soloist. Our students know him here as being a very fine instructor of music theory and ear training and all these things, but he's also a typewriter virtuoso, Mr. Alan Weber. And before we start, Mr. Weber, could you maybe explain where your typewriter came from?
This typewriter belonged to my mother, who taught business education for several years, and she typed my father's doctoral dissertation on it, and then I typed my master's thesis on it, and it's been up in our attic for a while, but we brought it out just for this special occasion.
So I hope you enjoy the typewriter. You know, I have to say that, you know, sometimes, like when you're playing certain compositions, you know, the musicians kind of get wrapped up in the music. One was when we played Rhapsody in Blue for the first time with Harold. And of course, they were listening to the music, so sometimes they would forget to come in or this entrance or that entrance. And a couple weeks ago, when we first rehearsed this with Alan playing the typewriter, I mean, I couldn't get the band's attention. It was like, you know, the greatest thing. I had to, in fact, text them to get their attention in rehearsal. And they know what I'm talking about. For our last piece, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight, and whether or not you know it, you're actually being streamed live on the web right now to all over the world. And I think that if you contact me, gibbled@palmbeachstate.edu, I can send you the link, as I'm sure it will be up and running for a little while after this concert. We are going to do an encore presentation of this next week at the EC Campus Theater, so if you'd like to join us again, we'd love to have you. And I know this is a very busy time of year for all of you. I know the students are very busy with finals and coming up, but we appreciate any time you can stop by and visit one of our concerts. We have a couple things coming up. Tomorrow night we have our jazz guitar ensembles and our jazz combo 1. And next Thursday we're going to have our 12 o'clock jazz ensemble and troubadours. These are all at the Duncan Theater, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock, and next Tuesday with this concert, again, at the EC Campus Theater. We'd like to wrap up tonight's performance with a piece by the great film composer John Williams. In fact, few composers have been as important to the American musical scene as John Williams. Williams, who spent 13 years succeeding Arthur Fiedler as conductor of the Boston Pops, is most widely known for his compositions of film scores in collaboration with Steven Spielberg, such as Star Wars Saga, Jaws, Superman, the Indiana Jones films, and many more. Other notable works include theme music for the Olympic Games and the NBC Nightly News. He also composed the music for Steven Spielberg's follow-up to the smash hit Jaws, a movie called 1941. Has anybody ever seen the movie 1941? That's what I thought. Okay. It was a comedy, and it featured the late actor John Belushi brilliantly portraying a character named as Wild Bill Kelso. In the words of John Williams, Kelso was a crazy, impertinent, but lovable Air Force pilot whose antics seemed to require a musical accompaniment that had humor and rhythmic vitality. As a result, I set myself the task of writing a zanily patriotic march that upon hearing, we might be moved to tap our feet to an imaginary parade going by and having fun doing it. So here then is the march from 1941. Thank you very much. We hope you can join us for one of our upcoming concerts in the next few weeks, but if not, have a safe trip home. Thank you very much.